Good evening. How you guys doing tonight? Another gorgeous evening. Let's see, I believe it's July the 8th, 2024. Yeah, I wonder what's going on, man. What have I got to share with you tonight? Well, I had a chance to work on my house a little bit more. I think in the last video I told you I got that cement board siding on my house, and it's slats, and where the slats connect to each other, there's a little gap right there, and over the years, that gap's got kind of wider, so I had to go up there and caulk all those gaps, and then today I finally got around to painting the thing. It's a huge area. It's on the west side of the house, so I want to make sure I got out there early enough to get it done before the sun got over that side, and I didn't quite get it done before the sun came over. I think I was out there for maybe an extra 15 minutes or so, but I had something on the old chrome dome there to protect me from direct sun. But when I got done, I was pretty tired because I got the old boom truck, but I can't articulate the boom from up in the basket anymore. It's been sitting outside for too long. The controls don't work. So when I want to move the boom, I got to walk down the ladder, do it from down at the bottom, move the truck, and get it in position to do the next area. So I think I went up and down that ladder probably 20 times. And by noontime, I was pretty tired of it. But it came out really nice. And so I've got the east end of the house to do. And that I'll have to do in the afternoon because the sun's on that in the morning. So tomorrow I'll probably get out there. We've got our travel trailer parked there. And I'll have to move that trailer out of the way so I can get my truck in there. So that's what's going on with that. The rest of the day, I just kind of took the day off. Just kind of lounged around, watched a lot of TV, read some, did that sort of stuff. So anything happening in the news? Well, it looks like old Joe is going to double down on running for president. He's not going to give up. Man, this guy's like the epitome of the Dunning-Kruger effect on steroids. I mean, I don't know if he's just delusional, if he's genuinely delusional, or he's not delusional, and he really thinks he's going to win. And right now he's getting beat by, if these polls are accurate, he's getting beat by at least 3 or 4 points across the country. And a lot of these states that weren't in play before, that were pretty much in his column, like Minnesota, New Mexico, and a few others, they're starting to lean towards Trump. And he's not showing any indication of that he's going to back away. And then I had a chance to watch in depth a little bit more of that George Stephanopoulos interview that George did with him on, what day was that? I think it was Friday. Thinking about a couple of the questions that George asked him, and I thought it was I wouldn't call it a tough interview. I thought it was pretty fair. Might have been a little bit soft, but nevertheless, George asked him, well, did you ever watch the debate? Like, replay of the debate? And Biden thought for a moment and said, I don't think I did. How could you not know whether or not you watched the debate? That's number one. Number two is, wouldn't you have a curiosity of watching the debate? Like, for instance, professional athletes, basketball players, football players, they watch film of the games to see how they can improve. Oh, look, on that play, you were out of position. You were supposed to switch on that man. Go over there and guard that guy. That's what you do. You watch film every day. A boxer, he watches film of an opponent for an upcoming fight. It's really important. Man, that's how you critique yourself. You see how you behave under pressure. That's when you really find out who people are, when they're under pressure. Not when they're sitting in a taped interview or doing a call-in to Morning Joe or giving a rally where you got a teleprompter and you got a friendly crowd there. You're not under any pressure. You got to be pressurized. Have some cojones and go on Fox News. Go on Fox News. Let's see how you handle that. Go on Sean Hannity and take on Sean Hannity. Let's see how you are when you got a fire under your ass. You know, every professional fighter, if he wins the championship, he's obligated to defend his title every so often. Like it's generally about every 6 months, he's got to defend his title or they take his title away. So, okay, he gets a challenge, and so it's maybe 4 months till the fight. So he starts to train, and he runs, and he shadow boxes, and he lifts weights, and he works on the bag. But you know what else he does? He spars. He spars with sparring partners, and they try to get him sparring partners that fight like the guy, the style of the guy that's going to fight him. If it's a left-handed fighter, they get left-handed sparring partners. And they tell those sparring partners, go hard. Go hard in there. Get in there, man. Put him under pressure. That's the only way he's going to get better. Or when he gets in there to the real fight, it's not a shock. Well, Biden didn't do any of that. I mean, the preliminary to him being the presumptive nominee, you know, was a joke. There were like 3 people that were running, and he wouldn't debate any of them. Now, in 2020, he had to go through a debate season. But look at the people that he had. He had Elizabeth Warren. He had Amy Klobuchar. He had the guy from New York, Bloomberg, was there. He had Andrew Yang. And Andrew Yang's no slouch, but they didn't give Andrew Yang any time to really do very much. And, of course, they had Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders is older than Joe, and Bernie is just as sharp as a tack. He can speak without notes. He can speak without a teleprompter. And, you know, the great thing about him is he doesn't sound rehearsed. I know he basically talks on the same subjects like, you know, Social Security, or not Social Security, but Medicare for everybody, education, college education, trade school for everybody that wants it, child care, you know, that kind of stuff. Those are his main talking points, and he's real good on them, and sometimes he's, you know, kind of repetitious in that. But you could ask him about any kind of subject, and if he has any knowledge about it, he'll start talking without any notes or anything like that. Biden can't do that. And when he does, it all sounds rehearsed. And, you know, Kamala Harris is the same way. That was always my gripe about her. And you know what that comes from? She was a prosecuting attorney. And of course, when you're a prosecuting attorney or a regular attorney, defense attorney, you practice. You know, before the trial, you practice in front of a mirror. You try to anticipate all the issues and all the questions so that when you get into court, it's almost like rehearsing the lines in a play. That's what she does. There's nothing spontaneous about her. Now, I've pretty well expressed my opinion that the way this should work is that Biden should voluntarily end his presidential bid. He can stay president until January 20th. I don't expect him to retire, although a lot of people are saying, hey, man, he's not fit right now. He should step down right now, and Kamala Harris should become president, and she ought to name a vice president. But when the convention comes, it should be an open convention, and she ought to be vetted the same way that anybody else who's going to run for that position for the Democrats is going to be vetted. She's got to walk through the fire too. Why should she be the presumptive nominee just because Biden stepped down? I mean, when people voted for Biden in the preliminaries there, they weren't voting for Kamala Harris. They were voting for Joe. And then when you look at her history, her election history, okay, she was Attorney General of the state of California. And then I think she won the senatorial seat there when Barbara Boxer retired. I'm pretty sure that's when Kamala Harris got to be the other senator from California. So she's senator from California. She decides to run for president in 2016. And so she doesn't even make it through the primaries in Iowa. She never made it through Iowa. Her polling numbers were so bad, so low, that she hung it up. And I think I mentioned this before. I think the Iowa primary is like in February. And at that time, the California primary was in March. Super Tuesday in March. And Andrew Yang was beating her in the polls in California. Now, how's that possible? She's a sitting senator in California. And here's this guy who's come out of nowhere, and he's beating her in the polls. So she hung it up. She never went any further than that. And then, of course, Biden picks her for his VP nominee because she's black and she's a woman. And it turned out to be pretty good for him. But let's not forget that Biden-Harris barely won in 2020. I mean, it was like 100,000 votes in half a dozen states that made the difference in the Electoral College. And had it not been for the pandemic, I can just about guarantee Donald Trump would have won. He handled that so poorly. So many people were dying from that it really reflected poorly on him. And I think that's the way that Joe squeezed in there. But you look at video of the debates between him and Trump in 2020, and then this last one, man, it's a world of difference. Obviously in decline. So we have more people coming out. I'm talking about elected representatives, basically in the House right now. We haven't had a senator yet declare that Joe should retire, but we've got, it's at least a half a dozen, maybe 8 Democratic Congress people coming out. And of course, in our local race here, we have a young man. His name's Will Rollins, and he's going up against Ken Calvert. Ken Calvert is the conservative Republican that's represented this district for 30 years. And I got an email off to Will today. And in the email, I asked him, do you know if there are any photographs in the public domain of you with Joe Biden? Because if those do exist, and Ken Calvert gets his whole hands on one, it's going to be in all of his ads. As long as Joe Biden is running, he's going to feature that in his ads. Is this what you want? So I'm just saying, I want Will to run. But I hope he's aware of this. In case this comes along, he'll be prepared for it. I don't know that he has any photographs with Biden. I don't know if they have any history together. But I know Will worked for the government. I think he worked in anti-terrorist, like Homeland Security or something like that. So anyways, I'm hoping that he will prevail. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There are more people that are speaking out and trying to convince us that we should stick with Joe. I think I was watching the Young Turks. I don't know if you ever watched them. Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparini, I think her name is, on their program, and they were featuring some video of different people that are speaking out for Joe, like Morning Joe, for instance. Apparently this morning, Morning Joe Biden called in there. And last week, the day after the disastrous debate, Joe Scarborough came out and said, hey man, this doesn't look good. Maybe this is time that we think about getting another candidate. And his wife, Mika Brzezinski, said, no, we got to give him time. So now a week's gone by, and Joe calls up in there, and Joe Scarborough is kind of mellowed. He's not so adamant about this. But other people have come out since then. David Axelrod, a political consultant, and several other prominent people. But the main thing is, I think what's going to happen to force him out is the donors have to cut off the money supply. That's the way to stop him, if he's not going to voluntarily go out. And there's plenty of, apparently, big-time contributors that are not happy about this because they don't want Donald Trump to win. And if they let it be known, we're just cutting the money off. That's the death knell. There'll be nothing that he can do. He'll just wither without the money. So let's hope that it doesn't come to that. I made a prediction. My daughter, my son-in-law, my grandkids spent the holidays with us, 4th of July holidays with us at the house. And I made a bet with my son-in-law that Joe would retire by next Saturday. And my son-in-law said, no, it's going to be like the following Wednesday. So I bet him a breakfast or lunch, whatever he wants. And what's today? Today's Monday? Yeah, today's Monday. So I don't have too many more days left before I got to shut up and pay up. So hopefully he'll do it by then. But the way it looks right now, unless there is a real concerted effort and the money people say, hey, no more, Joe. He will be there, and boy, what a disaster that would be for us. I mean, you know, he's so arrogant. You know, he says, oh no, I'm not, you know, until God Almighty tells me to get out, I'm not going to get out. Can you imagine that? Maybe his debate performance was God Almighty talking to him. Why not that? Why not that possibility? Maybe you just weren't listening. So he's leaving it up to God to decide the fate of our country, fate of our democracy. And you know what'll happen? When he loses, if he's the one and he faces Trump, when he loses, you know, he's going to say, well, you know, I gave it my all. I gave it my best. And somebody will just put their arm around him and say, yeah, Joe, you did your best, man. You know, we're so proud of you. Yeah, we're going to give you a certificate or something. You know, you weren't able to hit that ball off the T-ball stand there, and your team came in 6th place. You guys never scored any runs, but we're really proud of you, Joe. You're a good boy. You know, to have that kind of an attitude, like I say, he's either delusional, genuinely delusional. He has a mental condition where he actually thinks he can win in spite of all this, or he's not delusional and he's just arrogant because he's had so many times when he got knocked down and he got back up. Yeah. Dude, sometimes you get knocked down for the last time, okay? That does happen. But you think you're going to pop right back up, huh? I don't think so. So I think that's about all I've got for you tonight. So I just heard some voices off in the distance there. See if I can see anybody. It's getting kind of dark. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me. And I will be talking to you tomorrow night. Good evening.